clear color amid the dark blue-green of the sea. As he hovered, trying to make out what precisely he was looking at, he felt a worrisome stir in his belly. Something felt wrong. He darted up and away, mindful of the intuition that all too often was the only thing that could save someone so small and weak as he. But he was a heartbeat too late in heeding his instinct. Water erupted from the surface in a stinging spray, and concealed within, something very solid and very strong, closed tight around his legs. He panicked and cried for help, but his musical voice was swallowed by the roar of the sea. A moment later, so was the rest of him. Icy salt water filled his nose and mouth. His vision vanished in a rush of cloudy, greenish water. He struggled and fanned his wings, churning up the water around him. The grip about his legs was too great, and he was moving too fast. All he could do was wriggle and flail about as the current made him its plaything, and the pressure squeezed in around him. Down and down they went, he and the thing that had captured him. As they traveled deeper, the light from the cloudy sky faded. Soon all was black. Though he'd not taken a breath, and indeed had wasted half of what he had on a fruitless scream, for the moment he was not in danger of suffocating. A fairy knew how to make the best use of air, regardless of whether that air was drifting through the trees or nestled in their lungs. The current shifted. They'd stopped moving downward. Now they were moving forward, and quickly. He pushed and shoved at the fleshy digits clamped about his legs, but they may as well have been made of stone. All at once the water gave way to air again. He was thrust upward into a place as pitch black as the sea had been. The grip loosened. He tried to flit away, but his wings wouldn't obey him. The water had folded and bunched them terribly. It would take time for them to recover. Instead, he dropped down to the water's surface again, where he floundered and splashed until he felt cold, slimy stone beneath him. He scrambled to the solid ground, slipping and sliding along in the darkness, toward no destination more specific than away. From somewhere behind him, a light suddenly appeared. It was terribly dim, a sickly green, and it revealed something that he wished it hadn't. He was in a small stone alcove, a pocket of air trapped somewhere deep below the rocky shore. He shut his eyes and felt for the motion of the air around him. The wind would always show the way, if there was even the tiniest crack leading to the outside. But there was nothing. The air here was dead and still. There was no escape. His heart drummed in his chest. Fairies did not cope well with captivity. To be trapped, to be cut off from the wind of his birth, was unthinkable, unimaginable. It meant he was lost and utterly alone. But no, he wasn't alone. It was worse than that. Something had brought him here. He turned back in the direction he had come. The glow was coming from a strange crystal bowl, sitting just beyond where the water through which he had entered the prison lapped at the stone he now stood upon. It illuminated a towering figure, not so different from a fairy in some ways. His face, his arms, everything above the waist was quite fairy-like. The only thing missing were a pair of wings. But he was enormous, at least as large as those humans his father told stories about. And below the waist, where legs should have been, there was only a silvery tail, like one of the little fish from the home pond. He'd slid up onto the stone a bit, but his tail fin still idly splashed in the water. The fingers of one of the bizarre creature's hands dripped with the same green glow, and where the drops touched the stone, they traced strange ribbons of light before reaching the water and vanishing in a dim bloom of green. The thing smiled at him, but in the mind of the little fairy, he was just showing his teeth. The fairy looked madly for a place to hide. His surroundings offered little in the way of shelter. Bundles of a strange, thin substance were bound with thread and stacked in neat piles along one wall. A few highly polished shells, threaded onto a long string, hung from a peg hammered into one sloping wall. All he could do was wedge himself into the far corner, hope that this monster couldn't get far from the